shoes. Country granny played the blues on the stools. Head wrapped silky chewing on this oxtail. Scheming on a millie trying to hit the yacht sail. Gold shining lobster near the Everglade music. When we drop it's like you never made music. Better days never came easy to a quitter. Ain't no pump faking, let them see that I deliver. God body, baby, big 7 in the skin. Probably why you never hear no better again. Higher than the spot that we bout to set the bar. Stankin', smell it before it left the jar. I just left the coast straight to another ocean. Got excuses, me, I'm really having motion. Sipping on mimosa, chopping real estate game. 40 years later, still the same lane. Just left the hood, never heard of you. 30 long years, not a single word of you. Shop booming, baby, come and get it while it's open. I don't have time, I've been busy having motion. Just left the town, things spoke to you. You a L7, probably served to you. Shop still booming, come and get it while it's open. I don't have time, I've been really having motion. Boy, stop playing, this is not your lane. Never seen struggle, you do not know pain. Stop playing, would you be yourself? How they see you, how you see yourself. Ain't real, acting real fictitious. Family on the west probably still hit switches. Playing Sally Cell, brought the thumper in the car. I been down in Austin burning rubber down Lamar. Keep what you earn, put it back in the business. Gold mouth shorty spinning racks at the dentist. One stream need a whole 7 ways. That weaker than a whole 7 days. I've been playing chess, working on the left brain. Buzzing in my city way before the press came. Went and bought a now he think he less lame. Got the kind of gas that could fuel a jet plane. Just left the hood, never heard of you. 30 long years, not a single word of you. Shop booming, baby, come and get it while it's open. I don't have time, I've been busy having motion. Just left the town, things spoke to you. You a L7, probably served to you. Shop still booming, come and get it while it's open. I don't have time, I've been really having motion. Y'all know what time it is. Jerry, what up? Lords of the land. Ain't got no minutes for you, internet. We really outdoors with it. Till infinity.
Welcome to Paradigm Shift TV 314. Y'all know what it is. I ain't gonna even do the usual mumbo jumbo. I ain't even in the mood for it. I ain't in the mood for no BS. I'm gonna get right into this video. I'm gonna drop the link when it's over. Y'all can come in, talk about it. We'll get this over with. It's one of them. So we'll see what it is once we parse this thing out, so to speak. But I ain't got time for a lot of BS today. So let's get into the video and see what y'all think of what David Leonardi has to say about the connection between the Medu Neter and the Hebrew language. So, did I hit I think I hit the wrong joint. Let's see where we at. All right, I got it. At least I think I do. Yeah, bear with me. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Paradigm Shift TV 314. This is your brother DMG the Poet, and we have a special show with a very special guest. Before we get into our introductions and our subject, let me do my usual greet. Allow me to say God bless to all my Christian brothers and sisters. Let me say shalom to all my Israelite brothers and sisters. Let me say assalamu alaikum to all my brothers and sisters in Hawaii, Islam, to all my Moorish brothers and sisters. I want to say peace to all my 5% brothers and sisters, the nation of gods and earths. I want to say what's up to all my atheist brothers and sisters. Salute to all my Abo brothers and sisters. And then I want to say Jumbo to the rest of my brothers and sisters all throughout the African warrior, be it here in the United States of America or beyond. I say that greeting for one reason and one reason only. It's because if you're black, I'm with you. And I hope that you with me. Different ideologies should not keep us from uniting. We can't have unity without uniformity. We can also disagree without being disrespectfully disagreeable. That being said, gentlemen, please reintroduce yourself and introduce yourself to the Paradigm Shift TV 314 platform.
Well, y'all already know me. I go by the name of Nobody. Always trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody, and that is Jesus the Christ. I got my associate here today. I call him David. He'll tell you his full name. He'll give you all of his credentials, but we've been trying to plan this show for some time now, and I'm just happy to have the brother here with me. David, if you want to let the audience know your name and your credentials and what you do, we'll just start from right there.
Yes, my name is David Leonardi. I'm in a master's degree program, working through at the master's level studying linguistics. I've had a hobby in historical linguistics for many years, and I've studied ancient Hebrew on my own to some extent. I've worked on trying to discover some of the original nature of word formation in that. Soon after starting that, I started to study Egyptology, mostly Egyptian hieroglyphic writing and historical linguistics. So I've had a long hobby in historical linguistics.
There we go. And isn't it true also that you work with people who help translate the Bible into different languages?
Yes, yeah. The school that I'm attending, they have a descriptive linguistics specialization, and they also have a Bible translation specialization. Yes, yeah. So there'll be students that will specialize in either Greek or Hebrew or both.
Okay. So when it comes to the hieroglyphs and the things that you know about that, could you speak to us a little bit about where you got some of that information at and where you're at with using that information for whatever it is that you're trying to use it for, and like translating Bibles into different languages?
So many years ago, when I was very young, there was a very, very bright student with a very high IQ, and he suspected, he had seen evidence, and his father had seen evidence that the Egyptian hieroglyphic writing portrayed a language that was somewhat more closely related to ancient Hebrew than what scholars generally think. My grandfather heard about this as well from someone else who was highly intelligent. When I took up the problem, I started to study ancient Hebrew on my own, and I had the question in my mind, what's the source of ancient Hebrew? You know, there's talk about, well, it has a Canaanite source. Actually, I believe it has an Egyptian source. So I started to study the hieroglyphs, and I started to discover correspondences that seem to have been missed. And there's a reason why it was missed. So when Champollion was deciphering some of the cartouches, I think what was not fully understood was that some of those symbols compare to Latin. So, for instance, the hill symbol, it has a like K sound, probably from Caulus, from Latin. L corresponding to the lion for Leo. So I started to find words that related to like more Semitic words. So, for instance, if we have throne, let's see, it's throne, tell, house. That would be sometimes. Well, the tell symbol is generally misclassified as a loaf symbol. There are very similar looking symbols which are loaf symbols, but in any case, we know that the tell symbol corresponds to the letter T. It was first recognized by Arabs who noted that it appears to be like the feminine suffix in Arabic, so T or tab in Hebrew. Let's see, throne would be, actually the Egyptian would be probably pronounced Kajah, but it does begin, the word seat, I think, begins with a K or kaf in Arabic as well as Hebrew. The word for throne, it begins with K. And house would be beit. Now it's an H during the Greco-Roman period. As I said, like for instance, the hill symbol, Caulus, the lion symbol, Leo, those, K and L, that sort of thing. The Hadrian is spelled with the house symbol during the Greco-Roman period, probably because some of the symbols they were using to represent phonetic values, in some cases based on Greek, in some cases based on Latin. The house symbol would be a B if it's more closely related to Semitic. So you've got throne, tell, house. That would be KTB. That's katab or kataba in Arabic, or kateb in ancient Egyptian. It means right. It's the word for right. And there's many, many other examples. So I've come to see that really there's a lot that has not been deciphered. Most of it has not really been deciphered.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I heard that, right? No, keep on going, Dave.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's sort of the introduction, but at this point there might be a question.
Okay, DMG, do you have any questions? Or do you have any?
And that's kind of what I wanted to focus on. Two key points. It's highly possible, if I'm not mistaken, what you said, that the Hebrew language develops from the Egyptian language, and that the Egyptian language has not been fully deciphered.
Yes. So let me jump in 1 second. So I think so. There's two problems with on the Hebrew side. So number one, maybe Egyptologists don't want to think about like Jewish scholars or Hebrew scholars taking all their Egyptology jobs. Perhaps, but maybe that's in the back of their mind. But the other problem is, no, actually, so I remember going into the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art. They have a fantastic Egyptian collection there. It's right around 79 to 82nd Street on the east side of Central Park in Manhattan. And they have a huge exhibit, including the Temple of Dendur. But I would be in there, and I would see like the Orthodox Jews would be more intent than most people in examining the hieroglyphic symbols, and that was intriguing. But Hebrew, in my school, they talk about how every language has changed over time. Hebrew developed this Masoretic vocalization, and it kind of solidified a pronunciation that was very different than what the pronunciation used to be. So I'm finding when I study the Masoretic system of biblical Hebrew, it's so complex that nobody would imagine, like applying the Masoretic system to Egyptian hieroglyphic writing. It would like be impossible. The complexity would be too much to handle. So I think with the changes in the Hebrew language, they're just not able to see, or they don't want to entertain the notion that it could be close, that it could be closely related to ancient Egyptian. And actually, I think, from my studies, I think that the book of Genesis is an Egyptian book. Of course, some of it was composed by Hebrews, the later parts, but the earlier parts of the book of Genesis was likely from Egypt, not from the land of Canaan. Yeah, especially when you consider, I've heard a theologian talk about how, the Egyptians would have been very familiar with flood stories, and you have the Noah flood story. Yeah, I think certainly the early parts are, and I'm trying to think. Well, yeah, certainly the early parts of Genesis is an Egyptian book, in my opinion.
Okay, well, I got a question for you guys. You know how some people argue over if Samaria, Mesopotamia is older than Kemet or Egypt, or if Egypt is older than Mesopotamia, because they say that we get our writing systems from Samaria. What would be your thoughts on that?
Well, Samaria would be north of Israel. Mesopotamia would be east, like around where Iraq and Kuwait is. There's the Sumerian cuneiform writing. Scholars believe that they've made progress deciphering that. I'm not qualified in that area, but to me it appears to be extremely difficult to decipher the cuneiform writing. But it's interesting that, the cuneiform was used when they wrote on clay tablets. And a lot of that would easily, break apart. It was very temporary, but the Egyptians had a much more developed system. They were manufacturing paper, they wrote on paper, and really that lasted a lot longer than the clay tablets. And I actually think that one of the reasons why the Hebrews developed in Israel was so they could acquire the technology to make books, and the art of writing, the technology and the art of writing, which is really a highly developed system that the Egyptians developed. So I think that, but on the question of the origin, let's see. I mean, so in the field of epigraphy, the scholars have noted the Paleo-Hebrew symbols are very similar. Some are even, they appear to be the same as certain Egyptian symbols. But that at that point they diverge and say, well, the symbols have different phonetic values. So I'll take, for example, there's a symbol called the stool symbol, and it's a P in the Greco-Roman period, the letter P. It's the first symbol of the name Ptolemy. I try to figure out, well, what does this symbolize? And there's sometimes, okay, it's actually, you look at our capital letter H. The capital letter H is, our capital letter H comes from that symbol. You just draw a horizontal line at the top and a horizontal line at the bottom, and then you have that symbol. It's the letter Chet in Hebrew, and Egyptologists believe it's the letter P. So I noticed that it appears in some writing to be like a net. And I see that there's a word for net, chabel in Hebrew, but sometimes that's translated as rope. But obet means rope, and in fact, in Ptolemy also, the rope symbol corresponds to the letter O. So that made sense. So Hebel, or Abel in Egyptian, that is the word for net. So I said, okay, well that matches, because in the letter Het is the first letter of the word for net. So that symbol which is the symbol of the letter Chet, actually does fit, based on the acrophonic principle, with the word that is most likely also the word for net in the Egyptian writing. So I looked to see, well, is there a word for net in Latin that begins with the letter P? And there is, flaga. So, I mean, at that point, that's only one line of evidence, so that's kind of a hypothesis. But in doing decipherment, you want to have paradigms. So you want to have a lot of evidence, but that's just one piece of evidence. I actually have a photograph, I mean, not a photograph, but a printout of that symbol. Let's see, yeah, because I did bring this book, Egyptian Hieroglyphic Decipherment Revealed. So you can get that on Amazon. That goes through everything. Or actually, the methods of hieroglyphic decipherment. And it has philosophy. Let's see. Oh, okay. So actually, well, here's the symbol I'm talking about. And this is an example where this particular word is ethos. I don't know if you can see. Where is it? Oh, yeah, that one. Oh, it's the second word there. So that's Chet, tel, and flax. The flax symbol corresponds to S, and the tel again T. This would be HTS, which would be ethos. The letter Chet in biblical transliterations, when it's the first letter, or at least as I've noticed, when it's the first letter of a word, it's always transliterated as epsilon. So if I just transliterate that as epsilon, and that's tav, and that's a sin or shin, or s, actually, that compares to the Greek ethos. I don't know, yeah, you might be able to see that. I can't see it. Yeah,
a little bit blurry, but no, if you tell people, what the name of the book is, how they can acquire it, what you're saying will be panned out. So
yeah, oh yeah. So yeah, Amazon, and then so this is more interesting. I mean, this is interesting as well. So this, I think, kind of proves what my thesis are. This one I wrote. Let's see. I gotta read this out. Decipherment of the sarcophagus text of Thutmose IV. So I found a text of the sarcophagus text of Thutmose IV, and I noticed that there were a lot of symbols that I knew. So I got to work on it, and I was able to get about 70%. I guessed on some of the symbols. I transliterated about 85%, but I estimate it's 70% accurate. So yeah, so the thing is, like, it's here's just a sample page where I wrote this. So all I did, you might be able to see some of the Hebrew and some of the English on the sample page. Was that
the Hebrew on those pages is your writing?
Yes. Well, it's typed. I typed it out.
Okay.
So that the Hebrew is actually a transliteration, and it's also a translation. So that would be impossible unless the languages were closely related. So the fact that that would be impossible. So this book, I mean, very few people know that this is out there. But if you get like both books, it's a slam dunk in terms of beginning to figure out the language.
Go on Amazon, y'all go check out these books, man.
Oh,
make sure y'all check these books out. Definitely.
And I'm trying to think. Definitely. There's a simple illustration on the cover of this one. So that's actually, I think that's the Seti cartouche, but actually says salam, salam in Swahili. Salam, it would originally be pronounced salam because the Vav has originally 4 pronunciations, 3 vowel pronunciations. It would be similar to omega. The early omega would be sounding like aw. It would be a long aw sound. I did check with the Greek I did check with a Greek scholar who also teaches ancient Greek, and in modern, or his understanding of Greek, and I think it's also in modern Greek, but omega would be a long O sound, and omicron is a short O sound. So the same sound, but short O. Now, scholars do disagree in terms of, or some scholars would disagree in terms of how it's pronounced in the biblical period, or so. Like omega, they would say it's a long O sound. But anyway, that's maybe a minor point for right now. But sun, so you got sun is shams in Arabic. This is the scarab is actually lajah or lata in Hebrew. And then the three short lines would be vav, I believe, most likely. It fits the pattern. Then the basket is a container. A whole bunch of some containers correspond to the letter M. As some of this is derived from sound symbolism. So if you pronounce M, the lips, your mouth is closed, and it has the idea of contained. Although, like in Arabic, they understand the meaning of M to be like for places, there's been some semantic change, I think, but in Hebrew, originally, some of the meanings is contained. But anyway, so actually, just to diverge a little bit, there's a lot of containers in the hieroglyphic writing. They sometimes they have the phonetic value depending on what they contain. So I'm not sure which one, but probably the long vessel contained wine. So that would correspond to yod, because yain is the word for wine. So it'd be the letter Y. I've been able to figure out the cup actually was contained beer, because that corresponds to the letter chet, and chemetz. Actually, it's funny. It sounds like kemet, but it's maybe a different word. Chemetz in Hebrew, or emetz, or emich in ancient Egyptian, that means beer. There's a couple of different ways to translate it. So there is a passage in there's a few different passages. One passage says a chemetz of wine. So that would be a culture of wine. But in the book of Ruth, they're dipping their bread in the chemetz. It's the same thing. They're dipping their bread in the culture. That was a cereal farm, so that's most likely beer. So the general meaning is culture, or a ferment. You can either translate it as culture or ferment, but in the case of Ruth, book of Ruth, that's beer. And they translate it as vinegar because they want to avoid connotations. It's the same reason why, let's see, talatalit, quatsang. Sometimes I go with the Hebrew pronunciation instead of the ancient Egyptian. But there's a verse in Song of Solomon that they translate as bushy locks, but that's not what it says. It's actually referring to someone's rear end. There's a second word is en, and the first word is a reduplication of the word tell. So this is a tell. It's hard to see, but in the King Tut cartouche, bring it up. Yeah, you can see in the King Tut cartouche, tell, quail, chick, tell. That's a tell. A tell it's a heap or a pile. The underlying meaning is destination, but it's a heap or pile. But the reduplication probably refers to someone's rear end. So it's so it has such outstanding connotations, let's say, that nobody will ever translate it that way. I think at this point they don't know, because hundreds and hundreds of years have gone by, and no commentator has ever clarified that. So actually Solomon was black. And the interesting thing in Christianity is, because they're describing Solomon as being black, and that may be real.
I gotta stop for just a second. I just need you to repeat that for and put a little clarity to it. You said Solomon.
So Yeah, so, and the phrase that's mistranslated in the book of the Song of Solomon, or Canticorum in the Latin, it's spelled tab lamed, and then it's got a suffix. I forget if it's a plural suffix or the collective case. I think it's a plural suffix. And then it's followed by Kof Tzad He. Kof Tzad, or actually Kof Tzad. It might have the collective suffix on that word. I forget offhand. But that word definitely means end. No scholar, nobody disputes that. Everybody knows that. So the word talit, that is a little more difficult to translate, but it doesn't mean bushy, it doesn't mean locks, it doesn't mean hair, it doesn't mean any of those things. So it's describing Solomon as being black. So that made me realize there's another dimension to this, because that has to be a prophecy of Jesus. So that made me realize that I had to look back at how the Hebrews came from Egypt, and I had to look at the question of the Egyptian ethnicities. Now there were a wide variety of types. It's very interesting that when Joseph was in Egypt, his brothers didn't recognize him as first. Now, I had a professor who was Irish, and he used to go to Africa for 2 months most years. He would go 2 months. He had friends in Africa, and he would also go on hunting trips. He used to be able to make himself very, very dark. He used to get almost black because he knew how to do that. He would stay out of the sun, and then he would expose himself to the sun. And so I thought, well, you know what? Joseph was in prison for a long time, and then all of a sudden he got exposed to the sun. So then he marries he had 2 Egyptian wives. And then the Hebrews, they intermarried in Egypt. And then I also noticed when I was in Egypt, our Egyptologist guide took us to an arcade, which is just below the surface where the Sphinx is and the Giza pyramids. There was an arcade there, and they had these statues of the most ancient pharaohs, and a lot of them were destroyed later when there were invaders that came. But a lot of them are still in the museum, and they're all black. Now, a lot of people say, well, the color of the statue.
I apologize. I just
Oh, yeah.
you turning a few things that's happening in this YouTube community on this area. This collection of pharaohs that you're describing. You said that they were, when you say black, you mean this in terms of their ethnicity?
Yeah, so here's the interesting thing. So let's back up a little bit. If we look at King Tut, he had red skin. And there's a lot of statues of pharaohs that are red. They're red granite statues. So when I went to the Chicago Museum of Egyptology, the University of Chicago, knew that some of the Egyptians would sell statues in pieces to get more money. So I'm going through the museum, and I saw a statue of a pharaoh, but the statue was in white granite. That's very unusual for a pharaoh. He had the traditional headdress that not the upper Egypt crown or lower Egypt crown, but the classic headdress that you see on the Sphinx. Is a white granite statue. And I go through the museum, and the base was missing. So I go through the museum, and I found a base that's probably goes to that statue. But the writing on the base was in Greek. So that told me that, that statue probably goes, that pharaoh from the Greco-Roman period. And the statue was white. And it suddenly dawned on me that the Egyptians probably used the stone in accordance with the color of a pharaoh's skin. If you were brown or red, they used a red granite statue. If you were white, which that was not until the Greco-Roman period, then a white granite statue, which is very rare for a pharaoh. And so then when the woman's name, the Egyptologist's name was Rasa. She took us to the arcade at the Giza site and explained that all of those statues were black, and I've seen many of them. That tells me that probably they used the type of stone that matched with the skin. That's what that tells me. But the Egyptologists will dispute that. But yeah, but coming back to the previous point, if Jesus fulfilled prophecy, he also had to be black. So probably two of the tribes of Israel were black. They didn't all have to be. The Benjamin and Joseph, those two tribes would have been probably more intermarried, I suppose, just because Joseph had two Egyptian wives. So yeah, so then I started, and then I said, well, what about Moses? Moses, they said he had interracial marriage. Well, when he went to the land of Midian, he was recognized as an Egyptian. And it's possible, because like the people that are called Cushites, they changed over time. Like the people that the Egyptologists call Cushites on the portraits in King Tut's tomb, they're not the same people that are in the region today, the Cushites today. That's kind of changed over time. But it's possible, I would theorize, that the original Cushites are related to the Juntwasi of the who are marginalized now, and they live in the Kalahari Desert, but they're referred to as white. So, for instance, the Herero, who are very, very dark, they refer to them as being white. But so that may possibly have been the Cushite wife of Moses. So I think Moses was black. So it's very interesting. But yes, this is and I have heard this from, yes.
Got a question?
No. I was just reacting. No, please continue.
Yeah, I mean that's most of what I know. It's but yeah, because I've heard the question before, and my spiritual mentor had mentioned it, but he didn't talk much about it. I had to rediscover. But he talked a lot about a lot of the other things that I've mentioned. But I had to rediscover these things, so it's just not well known. Yeah. So,
man, David, I'm not gonna keep you here.
Oh, yeah, it's getting late.
We just got out, but I'm telling y'all, this is what I deal with every day at work. As y'all can see, man, we talked. He didn't drew me pictures, showed me words, and DMG. Remember, I was telling you about the Agaporus. I never knew that there was a word. He wrote it down for me, showed me what the word is, and all that. So, like, this is what I do when I come to work. The type of people I like to be around. Intellectuals, educated people that could actually teach me something. And David, I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. I forgot how late it is.
I appreciate you. I'm looking at the clock like, man, I would love to do a part two whenever you have, because I still have a bunch of questions. So no, I definitely appreciate this time.
Absolutely, and I will definitely make every effort to come back soon. And I have time, so and you can always, like, if you can always get a question to Wyatt, and I'll answer any questions that you guys have. Yeah.
That's okay. Well, hey,
yeah, and I'll be back.
Yeah, really. She said you're coming back. Y'all go check out them books. When the video drop, we're gonna drop the name of those books inside the chat and then the link, so that way y'all can go find them whenever y'all want to. This is my brother David. I am nobody. Always trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody, and that is Jesus the Christ. Go ahead, DMG, and the show, my brother.
I know what it is. This was an awesome show. Very, very much thanks to David and taking the time out to do this. Shout out to my brother, the co-host, Nobody. And y'all know what it is. It's Paradigm Shift TV 314. Y'all want the more scholarly level of information, and we're trying to bring it to you with gentlemen like this. So hopefully y'all enjoy it. We will be back at it again. Excellent show. Y'all come and check us out. That's peace. All right, family. So there it is. There it is. If you want to come in, please do, and we can talk about it. So I am having some technical difficulties, but if you want to hit the link and come in, we can talk about your thoughts on the show, what David had to say. I found it interesting. We talk a lot about what my brothers in the Hebrew paradigm have to say about men like Solomon and their ethnicity, and this gentleman seems to agree with that. We hear a lot of talk right now about the ethnicity of the Egyptians, those in Kemet, and I always say it depends on what era it is, because obviously Kemet was invaded several times. You had, and they let a lot of people just come in, even at times where it was stability, and so obviously the ethnicity was mixed up and mashed up in all kinds of ways as far as that went. But I thought he had some very interesting things to say. If anybody wants to discuss it, hit the link and we can. If not, I will go ahead and take my leave. But yeah, he definitely has some interesting things to say. I thought, at least. So yeah, if you agreed, hit the link. If not, like I say, I'll be getting out of here pretty soon. Definitely was an enlightening show for me. Shout out to my brother Nobody for putting that together for me. We have been trying to do that for a while, so definitely was engaging. But it was interesting. He said some interesting stuff. So we'll try to get him back on in the very, very near future, and see where we can take these conversations, because again, they definitely seem to be the hot topics within our community. So it looks like we don't have anybody that want to hit the link. I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to get out of here. Y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day, and we'll be back at it again. It's been Paradigm Shift TV 314. Y'all know what it is. It's your brother DMG. And man, Solomon, Jesus, the pharaohs before the Greco Roman era, according to this master's, soon to be master's level linguist, were black. So there it is. Hey, I mean, and he gave you some resources. So I hope, those who want to look further into it wrote those book titles down, and we could discuss it some more in the future. But it was definitely interesting. So that being said, we out, family. Leave a comment below and elaborate on what you thought of the video, and we'll talk about it. So we definitely gonna have him back on and get some more elaborations on some of the things that he figuring out as he as he navigate through this this language. And I'm sure some of the people who will get to see the video will start trying to pick what he said apart, debunk it, etc. So you know how that go. But appreciate y'all joining in. Shout out to Elder Yara. I think I saw him in there. Shout out to Afro-Asiatic, Scribe. Who else we got in there? My man, A1. Everybody that was in the chat, Courtney Thompson. Appreciate y'all. Peace to everybody. And again, Paradigm Shift TV 314, whole effing show. Shout out to my brother Captain K and the brothers over there at ISUPK St. Louis. Nobody from Trust and Believe the Gospel. Go to his channel, subscribe, all of that good stuff. We out of here, family. That's peace.